Let's welcome Marlene Street-Forrest to the show. She is the Managing Director of the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Hi, Mrs. Street-Forrest. Welcome back to Taking Stock.
Thank you for having me, Kalilah.
Glad to have you back, especially given the technical issues you were experiencing earlier. So I'm glad you could make it and sort it out.
That's right. I'm glad that we were able to sort that out.
Yes. So this year has been a pretty rough one for the Jamaica Stock Exchange, and by extension, well, the entire economy, the entire market is down. The JSE is down about 13% year to date, if I remember correctly.
11%. 11%. Yeah.
11, okay. Mm-hmm. And so far, there's only been one IPO this year.
Two.
Which two?
We just had one today, One Great Studio.
Which other one was this year?
And there was another. So it's two IPOs.
No, man, December. The last one was in December.
No, not at all. We have had two IPOs this year.
You'll have to remind me what that was, because my memory is telling me
I'll tell you in a minute.
Or perhaps the listing occurred in January and the actual, the IPO and the share of the sales and so happened in December. But I remember December.
Okay.
Anyway, we can check that.
So Image Plus Limited was listed on January 20.
Okay, yeah, Image Plus was the one. I remember that happening around the Christmas period. So the listing didn't take place until January, in my mind, because the IPO.
To be exact, yes.
Right. All right. So anyway, how does the JSE plan to turn things around in this difficult environment?
Well, Kalilah, as you know, the JSE is a conduit for market activities. So the fact is that things will turn around based on various inputs. So let us look at some of the things that would prevent or has happened to have this market that we are having. We are having, obviously, a bear market. Some of the elements. High interest rate is one area. People have options, and on a short term, they will look at securities or instruments that are yielding higher. So that is a fiscal decision, and we are hoping that the interest rate will trend down in a little while, remain stable. I see that, and then trend down a little while. Obviously, we have had also problems with some amount of confidence in the market, and that will stabilize. The Financial Services Commission obviously will be working towards that. And as you know, the Jamaica Stock Exchange continued to be relevant in terms of confidence building and how we obviously project ourselves in the market to our stakeholders. So those are two issues. And as I said, the third is the option to seek other instruments. When those things are corrected, let us use that word, you will see a return of investors to the market. There is an inverse relationship between a high interest rate and the market performance. Now, we expect, though, that in the interim, I listened to Mr. Charlton speaking. In the interim, there are many stocks that are there that are undervalued. And we expect that our brokers will be working with young investors, many of them who would have not looked at the long-term horizon, and to say to them, get back in the market. So these are some of the things that we believe will ensure that when this, throughout this cycle, we get back into normal market activities.
You mentioned earlier the issue of investor confidence. Of course, we had the SSL scandal in January. So very early in the year, setting the pace for the year. To what extent has that impacted investor confidence, and what role does the JSE play in trying to rectify that situation?
Well, while I cannot tell you a percentage, anything that is negative in the market is going to impact on investor confidence. To what degree, I'm not going to be able to say to you. But the stock exchange has been quite clear in speaking to the fact that we regulate the market. We sound the signal where there are persons or dealers that are not contributing in terms of the best practices. So we continue to do this. Investor confidence is not only about how brokers perform or lack thereof. It is also about how we also manage the market from a risk-based situation. So obviously, the Jamaica Stock Exchange has been dealing with ensuring that internal competencies during this time are improved. We talk about things like data protection and cybersecurity, etc. So the market continues to provide the necessary information also for companies and individuals to make informed decision. That's what a market is there for, to be fair, efficient, and transparent in what it is doing in respect to providing support.
SSL is not a publicly traded company, right?
No, SSL is not a publicly traded company. SSL,
right, they are not. So the question now is, what, if any, role does the JSE play in dealing with brokers, or is that only the purview of the FSC, the Financial Services Commission?
No, not at all. Remember now that the Jamaica Stock Exchange does regulate its brokers and also the companies that are listed. And so some of the things that we look for is market infractions. We look for, whether their net free capital is adequate. And we look for whether they are filing, because they not need to file with us, their financial statements, etc. So obviously things like lateness of filing of financial statements, as I said, about capital adequacies, etc. We look for, that's part of our rules through the regulatory and market oversight division. And we interface with the member dealer in respect to these particular requirements in the JSE's rules. Now, also we interface, as you know, the FSC is our regulator. And so in matters that are of concern to the Jamaica Stock Exchange in its review, we refer those matters also to the Financial Services Commission for their follow-up.
To what extent do you enforce those regulations, and do you have the manpower to enforce them? Because that capital adequacy requirement that you mentioned was one of the red flags cited for SSL multiple times leading up to what happened. It was not the cause of what happened and what was exposed in January, but it was a red flag.
And Kalilah, that's a good question, because where we see anything like this, we work with the company. The company is supposed to provide us with information as to how they will address it. And there is a particular period of time within which they are given to address those concerns. And any member dealer that falls within that area actually complies with the Jamaica Stock Exchange rules to provide the necessary support as it relates to that particular area. So it is something that we police, And we have good responses from member dealers when it does happen.
And do you have the resources to adequately police that?
We do. That is something that we do on a monthly basis, because all our member dealers, we have 13 member dealers, all our member dealers must submit their financial statements to us on a timely basis. And there is resources dedicated to looking at that aspect of the companies or the brokers' operations.
Which brings me to how you also treat with listed companies. So you have,
Yes.
a way that you deal with member dealers, member brokers, and then you also have listed companies that are required to submit financial statements to the JSE quarterly as well. As we speak, we have one company, iCreate, that trading has been suspended because of multiple breaches of those deadlines. So at what point do you say, we need to step in here and do something, because there have been complaints about iCreate for a while?
Kalilah, I am not going to get into individual listed companies, but I can say, generally speaking, there is a rule in respect to how many days after the non-submission of financial statements that the JSE takes action in terms of suspending that company, and then how many days after that the JSE takes in actually delisting that company. Now, if you will recall, and we know context is everything, that all listed companies were given up until when we discontinued at the beginning of the year, additional time to submit their audited financial statements. It's not only iCreate, but others, because of what transpired during the COVID period and the backlog and pressures on audit companies to complete the audited financial statements. So yes, it would look as if there was protracted time given to the company that you would have just mentioned, but the timelines were in keeping with the JSE's rules and the additional time that was given to all companies to submit their financial statements.
So how many chances do you give a company before you say, you know what, we have to take some action?
It is in rules. It is rule-based. So there is a matter of 90 days after the company should submit its financial statements. And if it doesn't, then the company is up for suspension. There may be extenuating circumstances, but generally and applied, that the company would be suspended from trading until the information is provided to the stock exchange. So what we have is rule-based.
Are there any other companies right now that you've been keeping an eye on because they've been consistently late with these filings?
We have companies that are late in filing financial statements. And audited financial statements in particular is what we are generally keeping our eyes on now, because the percentage is around compliance is around 70% compliance. And obviously that figure needs to go up. Now, when you compare that 70 to when the companies were given an additional time because of COVID.
Wait, you said 70 as in 70 or 17? Okay,
70.
good. It frightened me.
Not 17, 70.
70, got it.
Yes, 70%. You will probably see that during the point of where we gave additional time to submit, that would have been about 80%, 85%. It is down now where we have pulled the additional, the extra time that we have given. So that is what we are having our eyes on at this point. I must say that the quarterly financial, the quarterly financial is around 92% compliant in terms of companies submitting their financial statements. Where we have some challenge, obviously, is first quarter if the audited financials are late. Now, based on the fact that the audited financials are where we are at the 70%, it stands to reason also that the annual report is around that same percentage. So that is what the RMOD would be keeping its eyes on now on a general basis.
Okay. We have some questions from our viewers, so let's start taking some of those, starting with Marvin. Marvin says, good night. I want to hear about the shorting Mrs. Street promised last time she was here. Quite a few people asking about that, the introduction of short selling, sorry.
So do you want me to address that now?
Yes, please.
Okay, so short selling, as you know, is a complex, and I'm going to tell you, it is a complex, it's not a complex action, but it's a complex environment to set up. Now, where we are, even as we speak today, we were reviewing the rules relating to short selling, both from the standpoint of trading of these securities, as well as the lending and borrowing system that we must put in place in order to have an orderly and a standard market. So those rules we anticipate will be with our Financial Services Commission by the end of this year. Obviously, we are aiming for by the end of October. Now, the Financial Services Commission is going to take some time to review those rules. The other areas, so I'm going to be granular so that persons understand. The other area is the lending and borrowing system, as it interfaces with other systems in the Jamaica Central Securities Depository and our trading system. That we are in testing mode as we speak, along with our brokers. So you see, we are well advanced in delivering the short selling to you by the end of first quarter 2024. So that is the update on this. We want to ensure that you have confidence in us when we implement. It is not the easiest environment to be established. You would have seen that even in more advanced markets like the United States and Australia. So the fact is, I'm happy where we are. We're at a good place. And by 2014 first quarter, we should be able to turn that switch on.
I recall a conversation I had with one of your team members on this program, giving us an update as well. And one of those rules and one of the issues that needed ironing out at the time is which companies you will be allowed to short sell, because not all companies have enough liquidity. Not all companies trade a lot. And so is that one of the issues that you've ironed out already? Like, have you decided what list of companies, what criteria will there be for you to be able to short sell a company? Or is that something that still needs to be worked on?
No, there are parameters that I won't go into at this point, but we do have the parameters to, in order to determine the companies that will be a part of that basket. I want to put it that way. And liquidity, remember now, short selling is in order to increase liquidity. So that is not necessarily a big point in respect to the companies that would be we will, have trading in the first instance, because that is one of the things that advantage of short selling. But there are parameters, and those are rule based. Will be rule based. Those are some of the things that we would have been reviewing in respect to our rules.
The next question comes from Cheesy Gullyside, who says, we're still waiting for that USD trading on the JSE. Not quite a question, but I can phrase it as a question. What's the update on having that
USD trading on the JSE? We do have
the trading of US stocks, I think is what he means.
We do
currently
have
you do the
US
Canadian.
US securities that are denominated in US trading on the JSE. But
No, that's not what he means.
That's not what he means. He might mean that the having access to
the US
purchasing
market.
The US market.
Right.
That is in place. That's the direct market access is the vehicle through which the stocks investors can purchase stocks, either US or Canada. We started, Kalilah, with Canadian stocks. And one of the member dealer who is active in that space at this point is QMax. And we are now in the process of identifying the second party, I would say, that we will be working with in respect to the US market, as well as putting in place with our IT service provider any other probably market specifics that they will need in terms of the US market. But I'm happy to say that the DMA has been launched with starting with the Canadian market. So the person online probably would want to just check on the broker that I have just called in order to access that market. We had a seminar recently, and we were pleased, even with persons who have said how they have benefited tremendously from that, from having bought Canadian stocks to add to their portfolio. As it relates to the US now, the US leg, that will be in place before the end of the year. We are working assiduously to ensure that that comes on before the end of the year.
Okay. Next question comes from Alex Stewart. Alex says, what measures are being done to make it easier to fund your JTrader Pro account than in-house deposits? What about online linking, to our financial institution of choice?
Okay, and that's a good question. I think we had spoken to that at one point, Kalilah, and as we are going into a phase now where the JTrader Pro will be, although we have done some enhancement to the JTrader Pro, that is an area that the market is calling for, and we are now seeking again to do a further enhancement to that to allow for an easier, I would say, payment gateway, so to speak. Yes.
Here's a follow-up question from Christopher on the direct market access that we were just discussing.
Sure.
He says, is it good timing to expand direct market access to other markets outside of Jamaica in 2024? The Jamaican stock market is so down. Why not enhance activity on the local market and build it back up?
Well, the fact is that the market is down, and we expect that the market will come back up, but we have to put in place, I think it is only right that we look at how to assist, and this is something that investors have asked for, assist in an orderly way in diversifying person's portfolio. And it is really a matter of edging also for your portfolio. So it's not either or, it's not, and the timing is not an off timing. It's a good timing. We expect that the market, having come through this cycle, and we are expecting that interest rate will at some point soon trend down. Obviously, markets take a time to respond to that, but all in good time that 2024 would see a combination of both, where our stock market is back and also encouraging others to come into the market in this manner in respect to putting some foreign securities in their portfolio. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Right. Diversification is the name of the game.
That's correct.
I see quite a few people asking about extending trading hours, because here the trading day ends at 1 p.m. So Alex wants to know if trading hours will be expanded. Some investors have jobs that may limit adequate time to make investments due to limited hours for trading on the market.
The fact is that where you go to JTrader, Alex probably knows that he can put in his bids and so after trading ends. But if we're talking about the having access to one's broker directly, that is something we are looking at. Volume, value, number of transactions are now down. As you probably had said earlier, Kalilah, our value is down year over year, 40%. Or volume is down a little over 30, and the number of transactions just a little over 20%. And so when you would speak to the brokers, when you poll the brokers, it's a mixed sentiment as to whether they think that the market should be extended or not. That is a question that we will be bringing up again in our the end of September's meeting with our brokers, because it is not anything that is difficult for the stock exchange, I must tell you, nor for the JCSD. With the technology that we have, it's just a matter of changing the parameters to allow for longer trading hours, and the settlement goes where that goes.
So why does it end at 1 o'clock?
It ends at 1 because just historically, it used to end even before. It ends at 1 because there are two things. The volume and the activities did not warrant us going beyond that. There are pre-market activities and post-market activities, as you know, that a broker does in order for end-of-day activities, just like a bank, etc. There are those reconciliations, etc. So there is time that the broker community, the back office is needed to wrap up. However, I am clear that there is a space to extend the hours. So it is really now a further dialogue with our member dealer community to see how to treat with that from their standpoint. Because as you have heard me say, in terms of technology, it's not anything that we can't do. In terms of also our own operations, back office operations, we can extend that those hours.
Okay. Well, I hope it happens. Let's see if it actually does. If enough people call for it, perhaps it could be made a priority. So I see some questions as well about listings. We spoke about the number of listings being very small for this year. We just had one GS, and in January we had why do I keep forgetting the name of this company? Image Plus.
Right. But let me
Consultants
just
listing.
correct you on that, though, Kalilah, because since the year we have had 11 listings. We have had 2 IPO, initial public offerings, right? But we have had listings on our bond market, and we have had listings on our private market. So I just want to give the full picture in terms of listings.
And you have the social IPO as well.
And that is coming up, but that is from the standpoint of the social stock exchange. But talking about from the standpoint of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, we have had 11 listings, but 2 IPOs. Last year, this time, we would have had 6 listings, and the full year would have had 12 listings comprised of main market listing, IPOs, listing on the bond market, and listing on the private market. So, but people love to hear about the IPOs, and we have only had 2 IPO listings since the start of the year.
When did you start the bond market?
Yes, the bond market.
No, when did you start the bond market? Was it last year?
The bond market, 2009, 2010, probably.
Oh, from then.
It's still quite nascent, but that is something that we are trying to push in terms of those persons being interested, and also we are gonna be we are anticipating that the listing of Government of Jamaica securities will take place next year. So again, it is just broadening the suite of products.
Wait, when you say Government of Jamaica securities, what are you referring to?
Government of Jamaica bonds. 2024,
okay.
20, whatever, those securities that are issued by the government of Jamaica. And
some people might have heard that and got excited that it's the JPS long anticipated IPO divestment.
I wish I am as hopeful as you that we will see the ordinary shares, because as you know, the preference shares are listed for some long time now on the stock market. But we would love to see the 20%. Well, we list 100%, but we'd love to see that the ordinary shares of JPS are listed. And we have no control over that except to encourage and facilitate.
Right. So you did mention, though, that you've had 11 listings for the year, but only 2 IPOs. And IPOs are the ones that are the most sexy. They get the most attention.
Correct.
Do you have any other IPOs expected for this year?
Yes, we are expecting that we should have, and you are going to ask me the names, and I'm not going to reveal.
I know you can't tell me the names.
So we are expecting that there would be one other IPO at least. And then there would be another early January. So there are 2 in the works that we expect between now and the end of the year. But if it falls over, that they have to get approval and no objection from the Financial Services Commission, etc. So it depends on how that pans out.
Junior market or main market?
If it is?
Junior or main market?
Junior market.
Both?
Yes.
Okay. I won't press you any further than that. I know, because I could go as the financial sector, M&D, which sector, but we can leave it at that. That's as much.
Not at all. I don't even know if that would be considered for the FSC as priming the market. So I just give you as I have it.
Okay. 2 junior market IPOs expected in the next few months.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening, Mrs. Street-Forrest. I appreciate you making the time to come.
It was indeed a pleasure to be on, Kalilah.
And we look forward to end of year review, 2024 review, and seeing, what's happening with the market in a few months' time. Thanks again.
It will be positive for next year. It takes some time. As you say, we have been here before. We are not daunted. And we continue to encourage investors to stay in market. It's long term. Stay in market and to invest more, as a matter of fact, during this period.
Okay, thanks again. Marlene Street-Forrest here on Taking Stock.